Okay, the thing went live and I wasn't even ready. I fell on the floor and everything. Greetings and welcome. I don't know how I pressed live, but hey, I guess we gonna get started. This thing, I'm trying to be outside, y'all, but and I got this thing hanging, clipped on a tree. So it's a little muggy today in the Florida heat. I guess that's what it's supposed to be. Shalom, sis. What's going on? I'm having little technical difficulties, but good morning to you peoples. How is everybody doing? We're gonna pray I don't get tore up by no ants trying to be extra and curricular outside. So I want to do this one early. For those who've just joined us, you're gonna see a little bit of something from me. I done dropped the book. It's freezing. I heard. What's going on? The weather is crazy. It's still warm down here. We got a little, good morning. We got a little, it's Florida, so we got a little rain this morning and the sun, so it's a little muggy. It's a little muggy outside, but it's better than the cold, so hallelujah on that one. For those who just joined us, I dropped a new book, first edition. This is the proof. I ordered some copies. This is a, what do you call it here? A fictional narrative. The very first time. Very interesting stuff, but true to form, I'm going to touch on some topics in the book. I made it in a larger print because I've noticed, I don't know if I'm getting a little bit older, but that small print ain't doing it for me. So I made the print a little bit larger for those who may have, you know, a little issue reading them small, tight little prints. Kimberly says, shaking says, yeah, it's been a while, it's been a while, it's been a while. So hallelujah. I put up a question, a little meme, a portion in the book, and that's why I asked, can we relate? I see a lot of response we get when we're talking about relationships, how relationships are bad. The other day I asked, marry your mate, your spouse again, would you do it? It's very colorful answers. I love the answers. I love the honesty and transparency. The journey is about. The journey of life is about learning. It's about, okay, if just because you did it one time doesn't mean you would do it again, especially because you see the outcome, or you was right when you did it initially and you would do it again. And so all answers are appreciated because, and if you're enjoying this, go ahead and share, because it's a part of that person's journey. Everybody didn't marry the right person or for the right reasons. And no one wants to see divorce or separation. But oftentimes in this space and time, it's not anything new. Humans get to the point where they can no longer relate. If y'all are blowing, y'all are flowing with me because y'all are blowing in the breeze. If you see me moving, it's the tree. Okay? And it's the honesty. It's the space to be honest. I see a lot of absolutes oftentimes, and these thoughts that are pushed that don't really deal with the issues that people may be going through, and therefore it doesn't give them an opportunity, doesn't give us an opportunity to grow. And y'all know I'm all about growing, right? Because if we don't grow, guess what? You're going to do the lesson all over again. Why is she always talking about soul and soulonomics and lessons? Because that's what we're here for. Earth is a testing ground. It's a place in which we come in the flesh to have experiences, to learn, to grow. It's just like going to school, just like going to university. There are basics that we're supposed to learn, and then there are different things that's within us as an individual that we have to grow. We have to de-manifest. I saw somebody say this morning, I'm going to get into the book, but I saw somebody say this morning, you know, God or God, or get rid of the people from me that are not good for me. And I'm like thinking about that, like actually we have people in our lives, and when we elevate, those people de-manifest. When we come to the point where we've learned a lesson, or we have extracted from that situation what we're supposed to extract, then we no longer necessarily, quote, need them, but we no longer have to depend on them or are hurt by their actions and behavior. So if the test is removed, if the obstacle is removed, that doesn't necessarily mean you learned your lesson, and all that's going to happen is somebody else with those similar characteristics is going to manifest. So oftentimes we want the easy way out, but it's not expedient, let me say. The easy way out is not necessarily going to get us. Oh no, the ground is soft, and if I fall backwards, oh no, no laugh. Hold on, this a cheer ya. I'm gonna try not to. Let me try to lean forwards. But anywho, thank everybody for joining us. How you going so far? The book is available on Amazon. I'll tell y'all a little bit about it before I go into this. It's about first love that is lost. Let me just go ahead and say it, right? And then you go following the life of the young girl named Rebecca, and some call her Becca, that she goes through all of these challenges, as some of us do. Some of us think you can relate, some things you can't relate. And then she comes to understand, as she's going through all of these challenges, what was lost and what type of maladies or maladaptive behavior she picked up from not processing the trauma. A lot of times we go through things so early on in life that we don't remember. Ooh, y'all are blowing in the breeze. That we don't remember what happened. But that thing that happened, for instance, I'll give you an example. When you're a little child or little you, say you hurt your foot, or you hurt your toe, or you hurt your hand. Next thing you know, you limping. And what your parents say, yo, stop limping like that. Because if you do, then you're going to learn to walk that way, right? So even if you may be limping initially because it hurts, a lot of times the child, when they say, if the parent is giving them extra attention, like, oh, you got a boo-boo, they're like, ooh, I could get something off of this. Let me keep limping. Or 2-3 weeks later, your foot is all healed and you're still limping. We do that. We continue to carry that behavior into adulthood. And so when we get this injury, when we get a traumatic experience, we try to encapsulate it, and we try to prevent ourselves oftentimes from getting the injury in that space again. And then, more often than not, it kind of repeats itself until we address the initial, like, I do remember such and such and such and such, right? So that's just a little backup. So Eze essentially in this story is Rebecca's mother, and you're going to see how everything plays out in this. But Rebecca kind of does some retrospective thinking about her parents' relationship, because it's very important, and I've said this before, to kind of find out, if you can, what are the conditions under which you were conceived. I mean, it sounds kind of weird and creepy, but not less like all into the details, but the environment, the energy that was around your parents. Some people may have been a one-night stand child. Some people may have been a rape baby. Some people may have been for a love child. These are all very important ways in which you, the soul, is created, especially if you're trying to understand yourself and how you are. People try to go to, the stars, and they try to go to astrology, and they try to go to all of these places to understand who they are. But the energy that creates, I have said this before, when an artist creates a new book, or not a new book, a new painting, whatever, a poem, they'll often ask them in an interview, like, what space were you in? For instance, the Beyonce Lemonade album, and what space were you in? I was in this space, and this is how come I created this, and this. This is when our relationship was rocky. You know what I'm saying? Tina Turner's What's Love Got to Do With It? She was in the space of getting away from Ike. So then she creates this energy and this song, and it encapsulated in the beginning to the end of what's love got to do with it. This is the question she's asking. So when we're creating a whole being, when we're allowing a being to have passions to come in, that energy also transfers to this being, which is us. And so knowing the environment, also the thoughts that your mother was thinking, how she felt towards you when you were in vitro. This surpasses male and female, okay? Some people be like, oh, male and female. No, everybody comes through their mother's womb. Everybody swims in those birth waters. Therefore, understanding, were your parents against it, were your grandparents against it, all of that kind of shapes, because you may not have the same experiences as your brother or your sisters. Right? Some people would be like, oh, we came from the same people, we came from the same family. I don't understand why such and such and such and such. That's a gross mistake oftentimes that people make, assuming that because you came from the same mother and father, that you're supposed to have the same experience, or you're supposed to process the world in the same way. Maybe one was a love child and the other was, a oops baby. I mean, it's real tough reality to deal with. And the camera is just shaking this way, but we're going to try to turn it this way. Okay. And hopefully, Amuna don't, thing there? How are you guys going? I'm talking while I'm trying to find this spot right here. I should already had the spot, right? But no, I didn't. No, I didn't. So like I said, Eze is her mother and Marcus is her father. Here it is. 9.3. Oopsie. Also in this book, there's a lot of flashbacks. Like I said, the flashbacks kind of give context. And I was talking to my young daughter. She didn't read the book, but I was like, you know, she was telling me because she reads books. And she's like, Mommy, I don't know, when authors be doing them long flashbacks, I'll be like, what? But the flashbacks for me provide context. It's like a story. And my friends hate telling me stories because I'll be like, wait, pause. I'm not understanding. Who's this person? And then they got to go back like 15, 20 minutes to give me context, because that's kind of how my mind thinks. Like, how am I supposed to understand the comment if I don't understand the nature of the person, right? So that's just how my mind works. So that's how I write. So Marcus grew jealous, controlling, and abusive over the next few years. By the way, they're a young couple. And they don't necessarily have all of the tools that they need yet to be successful. He struggled to support his family and resented taking care of them. Eze realized things were only getting worse. Late one night, as she cried herself to sleep, she decided it would be best to reconcile with her mother. By this time, she has 2 children, and, you know, things are not going so well. Many people who find themselves in this situation, their parents were right. Should they go back? What should happen? So Marcus was upset when he heard her plans. He could not bear the thought of her abandoning him again. He promised to change his behavior, be a better man, and find gainful employment. His promises came too little, too late, as his bags were packed and placed in the living room by the door. She was going back to school, back to her parents, and back to a semi-stable. So that was just a little piece that I wanted to put out there. Why that many of our parents, grandparents, may not have started off on the right foot, may not have started off with all the tools and all of the support that they need. And it showed in maybe someone's parent was a gambler, or maybe they was a drinker. These are all the ways that we self-medicate. Some people be like, oh, they were a drinker because they wanted to be a drinker. Sometimes the pressure and the stress is so much on them that they look to self-medicate. They look to soothe themselves outside of the place that's creating the stress. A lot of people say love is all we need, but that's cool. But when the light bill is due, when the bill collectors are calling, when the insurance is due, the people are going to say, well, money can stress people out. Some of the top reasons, if you look at some of the statistics that relationships break apart, is finances. So I think it's top 3 reasons that relationships break apart is finances. So when you're looking at somebody who's young, who's not yet able to support themselves, you look at in other cultures where the man doesn't marry till later on. He doesn't marry till he's 30, 40 years old, because the expectation is he has to be able to support himself. He has to show and prove. Here you have a 20-year-old, 19-year-old, 25-year-old who has not yet shown and proved that he can support himself, looking for a mate. That's backwards. I saw a sign. There's a girl that's causing waves all over the internet. She's holding these signs like, if a woman, if the man has to pay all the bills, then the woman is a bum. I could go into that. I may go into that another time. But again, if we look at the traditional roles that a lot of people don't want to look at, and we look at the makeup of the man being a provider and the woman then now taking that which he has provided and multiplying it, when we buck to a certain degree or we veer too far from that, it begins to cause all of these problems. I know some people may be like, Amuna, that's really, but hey, we could talk about that too. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? I'm checking to make sure ain't no ants rolling up on me. What are your thoughts on, you like it, sis? Yeah, what are your thoughts? I tried to touch on so many different points. It's available on Amazon. I'm just going to keep, dotting through so that you can kind of understand what's going on in it. And why I think it's an important read. It took me a little minute to get it together, but hey. So, you can no longer relate. And I had some good, but I can't see it right now. Post from Sister. But if you can't no longer relate to your partner, should you leave? Should you try to work it out? Should you separate? Should you take a break? What are the ways in which you can repair a relationship? Are there certain serious situations when a relationship is beyond repair? Do we know the difference? Does society, or does our group or congregation, our environment support healthy relationships? Thank you, sis. Hey, Marlon, what's fact, sis? With the sign is actually mad at me tagging me now. Oh, you saw the person? Yeah, I mean, some people get angry. Don't, like I said, once you deal inside with you may have, then people, when they're looking to trigger you, you're no longer triggered. Now you can have a conversation based on what they're presenting, because a lot of times people are presenting things from where they stand, from their understanding of the world that they live in. And a lot of times when women, in this case, page, and she has the black man is God. So you look at the foundation of the person's thought, the black man is God. We have all the quotations, right? And we say, okay, this is the foundation of the person's thought. So the things that the person is going to be saying is going to support their foundational thought of the black man is God. And so therefore, if somebody is a God, then they need people to be subservient to them and to serve them. So instead of being triggered, in order to engage the person, if that is what they're looking for, the people around in conversation as to whether or not this premise or this theory that she's posturing is correct. We can't if we just blowing everywhere and upset about the statement that the person is making, in my assertion. So the person is looking for you to be upset. And instead of you say, okay, you're presenting this, okay, what basis are you saying that the black man is God? And if the black man is God, then how does that look in your world? You understand what I'm saying? And so you go down this little rabbit hole to a certain degree to have the person unravel their own madness or substantiate their theory. It's either going to unravel or cement it. Either which way, I think is a good conversation, but I couldn't go all the way down that rabbit hole this morning. I just made a mental note. So with that said, I'm going to run up to the yummy real quick. Anybody have any other? If you missed it, you're going to have to go all the way to the beginnings. On relationships, can you relate? You know, some relationships don't work. Some relationships do work. Some relationships aren't working, but we pretend that they are. Some relationships used to work in the brokenness that we used to be. And that's another thing. They don't always have to be romantic. Sometimes in our brokenness, and that connection fed or helped support that person who we used to be. And when we begin to change, my favorite word, when we begin to elevate, when we begin to reinvent ourselves, we no longer, it's like trying to put a CD in a VCR, throwing it back, right? People be like, VCR, what's that? Try to put a CD in a VCR. That relationship, although it's still media, you can't put a CD in a play. And then if you go to an MP3 player, there is not even, you can't put a 8-track in an MP3. It's no longer relatable, although it's still music. That's not the way you play it, right? So that's kind of look at the things. They still took the same concept of playing music, but they took it from the record to the 8-track CD, you know what I'm saying, and on and on and on, till now we don't even need the physical thing to be able to get this music. We no longer even need the physical thing. Now it's in a SoundCloud somewhere, and we can just press a button and boom, we're listening to music. That's wild, right? Kimberly says, I need to get, because my parents were in that same space. She told me she wanted to be loved, but as a mother, she didn't give mothers love. And that's interesting. That's interesting. And there can be many reasons for that, Kimberly. There could be that She wanted to be loved. That means initially maybe she didn't get the love. She didn't get the mother's love. And she thought that the relationship was going to fill that void. A lot of times we get with people because the void that they didn't create, we're hoping that they can fill. I'll say that again because I understand it. Because I've been there. The void that they didn't create, we're hoping that they fill. So when we listen to the words, just like what Kimberly just said, her mother could say, hey, I had a void. It could be from the maternal side. It could be from the masculine side. We to your that this would fill it, and it didn't. Therefore, when I had this offspring, when I had this responsibility, I was already empty. So I didn't have to give what. You understand what I'm saying? And so those are like little pointer clues. I call them like little clues that can give us an understanding that when we grow from the child's mind to try to deal with the situation from an adult's perspective, we can put it in its right place. And that's how we begin to heal. Shalom, sis. Shalom, sis. Right? That's how we begin to heal. And so I would say, write that down. You know what I mean? If Mom Deuce is talking, or your pops is talking, whoever's talking, your granny talking, whoever's talking, your brother, your sister, if they were the antagonist, because I may be going off here. Should I make that another post? Let me think. I think I'll make that another post. But essentially, even your brothers and your sisters, sometimes we have antagonists and protagonists in the conversation, right? Sometimes our own father, mother, or granny, or cousin, or caretaker was the antagonist and protagonist. So if we look at ourselves as being in this movie script, and when we're born, we get the script, we already have characters already playing their roles before we enter the scene. So when you are doing a movie or when you're doing a play, you get everybody's lines. You don't just get your lines. You get everybody's lines, and they have the character synopsis of who's this person to this person. But when we kind of enter into this tunnel vision space of we only know our lines and we only know what the character is saying to us, but we don't know the energy behind the character, we are lost. So along the lines of healing, you begin to say not necessarily what you wanted the person to be to you, but what they were, how they presented themselves to you. Were they the friend of this person? Were they the enemy? Were they the indifferent to you? Were they the antagonist, the protagonist? Did they become the main character in your life? Were you the supporting actor? All of these things helps you step back a little bit and try to put everybody where they were. Not where you wanted them to be, but where they were. And then you'll be able to move from there. I think it's important. But hey, any other thoughts and questions before I peace out? I gotta make sure this put these clothes in the dryer, and then I'm out. So I'll read you guys the back of the book, right? It says, Peter and Rebecca had a lot in common, both born to Jamaican parents from New York who recently moved to Florida. They were young and in love with just one problem, Rebecca's family, the Williams. They held a tight rein over her, which made it almost impossible for the two to date. Rebecca lose Peter, so she devised a plan for them to be together. That day changed their lives forever. I can't see underneath this thing because they put this little stripy thing. But yeah, so there's so much stuff in that. Dealing with immigration, I'll talk about that another time. Dealing with coming from another place in hopes that, or your family being uprooted from one place to another in hopes that this place will be better. It could be from the south to the north. It can be from a foreign country to America. But there's something that shifts in the family that's disconnected from their roots, you know what I'm saying, and have to reestablish themselves in a new place on top of rearing their children in this place that they promised would be better, right? There's a whole lot that goes on there, and if that happened to you or your family somewhere along the line, that needs to be included in the equation, right? I had to, like, for my own family, I had to step back and be like, that is part of the equation. Sometimes that creates a void. It's like being ripped off the continent and dropped here in America. That creates a void. So now you have to go about reconstructing family, reconstructing a social network, reconstructing your culture. This is why a lot of culture that's not here, like Chinatown, Little Italy, Jamaican food. People come from these places and then they reconstruct their culture in this foreign place and try to find some comfort in that. You know what I mean? That's also something to consider. So like I said, once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Any thoughts before we go? So yeah, if you see me post those little things, y'all, let us know your thoughts. Because again, you never know who's reading them. They could be, there's a lot of people who be like, Amuna, thanks for the stuff you say. You know what I mean? It's wild, or questions you ask, because people are praying somewhere in their prayer closet for answers and for direction or for a perspective. We don't know where people may be closed into their minds, and just you may be something you say, something the Creator has for you to share. In you doing so, it can really help somebody and lift the burden off somebody's heart. You understand? So never underestimate the power of words. Always be mindful of the words you speak. And the fact that, especially in this World Wide Web, we never know. We never know who's reading it. We never know who needs it. We never know where people are emotionally at the point where they're reading it. You know what I mean? So with that said, thank everybody for tuning in. Thank everybody for tuning in. I'm going to talk to you guys later. It's getting hot. It's getting hot in here. Let me see here. Oopie. Oh no. All right. I waved. All right. I don't know if it's delayed or not, but let me take this thing off. Oh. Oh, there we go.